If you're struggling with self-sabotage and you don't know where to start, here, right here on this podcast, we're building the community. I want to remind you, breaking self-sabotage patterns takes time. You've been operating like this for years, every decade, like I was. Be patient with yourself. Celebrate the small wins. We're building a community of people committed to breaking these cycles. Hello, hello, hello. You have reached Terror to Triumph. I'm Alfonso Pelt, and we are here for our first live Q&A. Hooray! I thank you all for joining. I am ready to answer questions. So if you would like to talk to me, possibly send me a message or a comment, or if you would like to ask me anything, I am here for that reason. Today is about you. What you want to know, what you want to learn about, what you want to get involved with. And we're dedicating this episode to our viewers. Anyone who wants to listen can come and find out anything. You guys have free reign to come and ask questions here today. And that's what we're here about. We're here for you to answer questions. And I am watching the link for the live to see if any questions pop up. And I don't see any as of yet. So I guess I will start just talking until somebody pops up and asks a question. We have a half-hour session today. So this will be ending at 11 o'clock. And let's get into it. What is Terror to Triumph, you might ask? I'm glad you asked. Terror to Triumph is a community of survivors who have endured the hardships of childhood trauma. We are here to help other survivors overcome their fears, guilt, their isolation. We want you to become whole. We want you to regain your life as it was meant to be. There is much power you have inside of you. That power is your voice. You can use your voice to speak out against the fear, against that veil of darkness that you've been living in. We're here to help you facilitate that exchange. Terror to Triumph was created by yours truly, as you can see the founder down there. But I created this because I too am a trauma survivor. My abuse started when I was very young. And before that, if I can remember correctly, my memory serves me right. Before that, I was this happy-go-lucky kid, super curious about everything, asked all kind of questions when I didn't understand something because I wanted to know. wonder, why does this work this way? There was this, why does this work that way? Or if I didn't have anybody around me to show me, I was taking it apart and putting it back together, even though I didn't know what the components were. Like, I took apart a typewriter, put that back together. Talking about the old-fashioned typewriters, the one you had to push hard on the keys. I took that apart and put it back together. I don't know how I did that, looking back at it now, but I did when I was a kid. Just curious, curious about everything. Why does the sun shine? Why does it provide heat? I was outside playing. I used to love playing outside by myself as a little kid. And I stayed outside so much playing in the backyard that I got a permanent tan on both my arms. So on the outside of my arm, I'm one color. And on the inside, I'm a different color. And it's a definite line going straight down the middle of my arm, so you can see the difference. And it's really weird. I didn't try to make that, but that's just from me being a kid, being outside. I got permanently sunburned. And it didn't hurt, or my skin didn't peel or anything like that. It's just the sun changed my color to make me that way. That's because I love playing outside so much. I didn't care about the sun. People running outside. As kids, we don't think about those things, We're just out trying to explore and have fun. That's all we are thinking about. And that's what it was all about as a kid, That's how I was as a kid. I know I love to dance. I really, really love to dance. I wanted to be a break dancer at one point. But I wasn't good at it at all because I didn't have anybody to teach me how to do it. The thing I wanted to learn the most was the windmill, learning how to do the windmill. Welcome to Terror to Triumph. I see you're live on here. This is our live Q&A session. You can ask me any questions. They'll pop up for me, and I will try to get back to you and answer your question appropriately. So please, by all means, ask away. Type your question. If you're on Facebook, type your question. If you're on our channel on YouTube, which is Terror to Triumph Live, please post your question there. They'll show up on my screen, and I will answer your question appropriately. As far as my childhood went, it was all sun and fun for me at one point in time. I mean, I didn't care about what I was doing. I didn't have any real concerns. This is like, I maybe have been 3 or 4 years old at this point. I'm not going to school yet. I remember I was outside one day on the side of the driveway, 5060 Newport in Detroit, Michigan. And our neighborhood was integrated back then. We had both African and Caucasian European people on our street. And sometimes things got a little heated. This particular day, I was on the side of the house. I was playing in the mud. It had rained like earlier that day. Then it created this mud patch on the side of the pavement in our driveway where my drunk dad used to miss the pavement all the time and drive in the mud. So he created this path of mud between the bushes and the driveway. And I'm playing in it. And a young lady was playing outside across the street. And she saw me playing in the mud. And she asked me if she could come over to play. I'm like, I'm not thinking anything about it. So I said, yeah, come on, I don't have nobody to play with. I ain't thinking about it. So I go up to the street, to the curb, because I know my parents told me, don't you go out in that street. So I went up to the curb, and I'm looking both ways to see if any cars come. I said, no cars are coming. Come on. So she came on across the street, and we go to the mud, and we get to playing in the mud, not thinking kids. We kids. You know what I'm saying? She taught me about mud pies. It was the first time I ever heard of that, mud pies. And she had these little foil things, the pot pies back in the day. They didn't used to come in that paper stuff they came in now. They used to be aluminum foil. You have to put them in the oven. You couldn't put them in a microwave. So back in the day, when you finished that, you didn't throw away those little aluminum pans. You used them, you reused them, and you cooked and you put them back in the oven with other stuff so you could reheat your food. So she she had a couple of those, and I don't know if her parents knew that she had these, but she had a couple of them. And we out there putting the mud in there, and like patting it down and stuff, like we baking these mud pies. Well, her parents, well, her father rather, came out the house, and when he came out the house, he was yelling at his daughter to come back across the street. Looking at it now, I'm looking at it now from a different point of view. Back then, I got scared because I was like, oh, he yelling at her, she about to get in trouble, and I didn't want her to get in trouble because I knew about whoopings. No, let me rephrase that. I knew about beatings. I knew about beatings. So I didn't want her to get hurt, because she coming over here to play with. She asked me to come over. So now I'm feeling guilty because now she about to get in trouble. And wow, my father was yelling for her to come back across the street, which is accurate. You don't want your kid out of your sight. You know what I'm saying? He was probably, in the living room looking at her play on the front porch, which is where she was. Nothing. So it was understandable that he was upset that she had crossed the street without his knowledge. So my parents heard him yelling, and they came out the house. First, my mother, irate at that this man is yelling for his daughter to stop playing with me and come back across the street, not understanding that his daughter was out of his sight and across the street at a neighbor house without permission. But my mother took it as an act of racism because she thought he didn't want his white daughter playing with this young black boy. So the argument ensued. My dad comes out the house. They yelling at the neighbors across the street. His wife comes out. She's yelling back and forth from my parents. And I'm just sitting up here feeling sad, not for myself, but for the girl who's caught up in the middle. I think her name was Rachel. I kind of had a crush on her too. I mean, even at 3, I was crushing on a lot of people back then. I liked anybody that looked good. So, you're a kid, you like, ooh, ooh, ooh. So it was that type of deal. But she was the only one to show interest in me, enough to come across the street to play with me. And no other girl had done that before. So naturally, my senses kicked up on that. But after that situation, I, needless to say, never got the chance to play with her again because of the issue between our parents and the misunderstanding. So I say that to say, even though you might misunderstand something, you could possibly cause your child trauma from your misunderstanding. That's very, very possible. Very possible. I didn't want my parents to fight with her parents. And I knew my mother. My mother was a shooter. And she got angry enough, she was pulling out the rifles, she was pulling out pistols. I don't know where my mother got all these weapons from. I never saw them in the house, like just sitting around. I remember seeing a rifle in her closet in the bedroom one time. But as many as I've seen her have over the years, I don't know where she got them from. I seen a black pistol that had to be maybe a 25. Now I seen another one that was probably a 380. And then I seen another one that was silver with a wooden handle. I was in my teens when I saw that one. I was thinking, no, I think I was 19 when I saw that. Then there was a shotgun and a rifle, and I'm like, where they getting these things from? My parents is off the chain. Hello, anybody out there? Anybody want to ask any questions? I say I have one viewer. I have one viewer, but you're free and welcome to please ask anything that you want to ask. Type it in so I can see your question, and I will try to answer it as best I can. Hopefully, it's pertaining to the topic matter, which is surviving childhood trauma. Again, to everybody who may be watching, because I know some people will download this later, I want you guys to understand that I am still recovering from my trauma. 54 years old, I'll be 55 this year. And last year was the first time I ever sought to speak to a therapist. And I actually found one and started therapy. But before that, I was always trying to fight it myself. I don't need any help. I could do it. I ain't got no problems. Ain't nothing wrong with me. But hey, Mishi. Oh, thank you. I appreciate you. That's fine. That's fine. Miss Mishi, Shimishi, 2814, stated that she was watching me on her TV screen, not her phone. Um, she's dealing with some triggers right now. And I want you to know that we all have triggers. Survivors of trauma still deal with their triggers. They try to work with them, and their therapists, which is why we need professional therapy, knows how to get us to rearrange our neurons, our thought processes, so we can learn how to think as we should. Because right now we're thinking in survival mode, in crisis. We're on a constant lookout for threats and danger, and we're always perceiving things as a constant threat to us. Even in normal conversations, we might think, what they trying to say about me? They might not be trying to say anything about me. They might be just having a normal conversation, or they might be trying to just crack a joke, but it's no real underlying premise to it, but we're taking it that way because of our trauma. These are called trauma responses. Shimishi. I was born in 1971. This was after segregation, just after integration. So we, well, I had just missed that. That was actually in the 60s. I mean, there was integration in the neighborhoods between Africans and Caucasians, but it wasn't to the point that you're probably thinking about with the marches and all that kind of stuff. There was marches during the 70s, but I was too young to even realize that that was happening. So, yeah, I was born close enough to know that racism still existed and was prevalent in things such as restaurants when you go to order your food, how we weren't being served right away, but the other people were being served very fast. You know, we had to wait like a couple of people back, and then my parents go off again about the service. So my parents now, they came up in the segregation times, Jim Crow and all that. So I can understand why they had the mentality that they had. But you say shout out to Wayne Health, Livonia. I had never been there. At least I don't think I have. I know my mother was at one point in time. She had volunteered to go into mental health therapy due to her bipolar and other ailments, mental ailments. So I remember visiting her like almost at the airport, going out that way to go to a place. I think it was on Telegraph or something like that. But yeah, I remember that. I remember that. So my mother was definitely a patient at a mental health facility at one point in time. So I agree with you. I give accolades to all those people who try to help people with mental issues and ailments. So I applaud them and the work that they do, because when people like us come along and who we need to help, you know, we have to have somebody to help us. You know, sometimes people don't want to help or don't know how to help. So we have to go find a professional. Yeah, I came up towards the end of segregation and Jim Crow and all that stuff. Beginning integration. Yeah, I was at that point, you know, when I was born. Like I said, that was really going down like in the 60s, but it carried over into the 70s and finally it kind of washed away. Well, not completely, obviously, because they're trying to bring Jim Crow back and abolish all the civil rights acts. So, but I don't want to make this about a political thing. I want to keep the topic on point with childhood trauma and the ways we can try to cope with our problems or our thinking, our the way our minds have arranged the protective measures to keep us safe. So I would like for us to think about this. You know, we have a tendency to say we're broken. We have a tendency to say I'm never gonna be right. You know, who is gonna want me? I'm damaged goods. You know, I'll never be good for anybody. I just keep messing up. All these negative comments. But the truth is, we can live normal, healthy, and happy lives. You know, we have to seek the help of a professional. Hopefully, it will be someone who's trained in trauma therapy. Like when you hear this, that I didn't know this before I started seeking therapy, before I started going to therapy. You've heard it said, you know, PTSD, right? PTSD, PTSD. And we think, when we hear PTSD, what do you think about? You think about the military, you know, people coming back, their minds have been fractured, or so we think, you know, they're incapable of reintegrating into society. But the truth of the matter is, we can have PTSD right here from childhood trauma, you know, but we don't realize that. And I learned that from my therapist that I had PTSD. I got a book coming out this year. It's called The Terror in My Eyes. And this book talks about that PTSD. I didn't even know when I was writing this book. This was way before I even talked to my therapist. But looking back after I talked to her, I could see the PTSD in me now, you know, from the book. And it's crazy because there's a portion in the book where I talk about the feet. Okay, so I'm not going to give everything away in the book. I want you guys to check it out when it comes out. But just when you get to the portion where I start talking about the feet, that's some real stuff. That's real. It's real as it gets. Even to this day, if I hear somebody stomping around on a wood floor, like I'm in the house and I hear somebody walking hard on their heels, boy, that sends something up my spine. I do not like that at all. That puts me in a fight or flight type situation. That's a trigger, a strong one. That came from my mom's. Yeah, that's a doozy. So what you say, Misha? This is outpatient, and you will find 1 year. I'm not gonna lie. In my childhood, I never wanted to go to therapy because people were never really listening to me. I was too young to have our own voice. And then I became an adult and I had my own voice and they still were listening. I said, no, I'm good, but I've been with this lady I call Tupac. You call this lady Tupac in regards what you were saying about your mom. Okay, I get you. I get you. Yeah. 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 Your situation, you know, it used to unnerve me something fierce. I'm not gonna lie. When I first learned about you and what they said you were having problems with, and then when I talked to you, I'm not a therapist. I wasn't a therapist then. I'm not one now. I probably couldn't tell you, but you didn't seem like anybody that they were talking about. You didn't seem nothing what they said that you were presenting and all this. No, I didn't see none of that. And that used to make me furious because that made me feel like they were forcing you into a life because of monetary reasons. And I won't get into that, but that's a very traumatic thing. Somebody says, "Oh, I can get a check if my child is mentally handicapped." So I'm gonna say my child got ADHD. I go to the doctor about my child, and I'm like, my child won't sit still in school, blah, 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 blah. I think he got ADHD. The doctor looked at the child. The doctor say, let me run some tests. The test, child is an active child. The child don't focus and nothing like that. Oh, yeah, your child got ADHD. The child is a child. A lot of doctors misdiagnosing our babies so they can get that bread off the pharmaceuticals that they're going to sell to you eventually down the road. And I do not like that at all. Anyway, I said I wasn't going to get political, but I'm getting there. Actually, I am over my time now. Mishi, I thank you for joining me tonight. Let me finish off your two statements you just put up here. You said it took you 15 years to get bipolar and schizophrenic off your name. You worked hard to clear your status. Amen. Amen. Hallelujah. I like that. I like that. See, you reclaiming your life. And you can't do that if you don't speak up. You don't realize how much power you have in your voice. And you're telling it right now. You had to fight against that. And you would still be diagnosed as bipolar and schizophrenic if you just laid back and not said nothing. That would be living underneath the fear. And you didn't settle for that. And I applaud you for fighting against that. You said you will money. You were very broken, traumatized. You wake up every day with a prayer on your mind and heart to heal you through the day because everything is triggering for you and you can't help it. Okay. So before we go, I want to try to talk to Mishi for a second. Okay. Anybody, this can apply to any other survivors out there. If you're listening, when you feel yourself becoming overwhelmed, and I know that this happens to all of us, me included, when your chest starts feeling a little tight, you might feel your heart beating a little bit faster, feel a little choked up in your throat. Sometimes your mind won't allow you to formulate sentences. All that's trauma responses from whatever trigger that you just experienced. There are certain things you can do to try to calm yourself back down. Say if you're around some people, go to the bathroom. When you're in the bathroom, try to do box breathing. Box breathing is breathing in for 4 seconds, holding it for 4 seconds, breathing out for 4 seconds, and letting it stay out for 4 seconds. Well, you don't need to shut down. You need to be in the moment. Mishi, you have to stay in the moment. The reason being is that you're trying to train your body and your mind to trust your thoughts. And in order to trust yourself, you have to stay in the moment. You have severe muscle spasms. Okay. Well, okay. So, yeah, okay. The box, I can see why the box breathing wouldn't work for your circumstance, but you can still use some cold water. Put your hands in some cold water. Like go in the bathroom, turn the cold water on, fill the sink up, and just put your hands in the water and let it sit there for a couple seconds. Then pull out. And let your hands warm up. Then put them back in the water. This is bringing you back to the moment. Okay. You could also step outside for a second. Say, I just need a breath of fresh air. You go outside. Look up in the sky. I know you can't do it right now. You can't take your shoes off and put your feet in the grass, but you can look up in the sky and just take a pause for a minute. Clear your mind. Let yourself get grounded. That can help you pull you back. Do the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 technique. You could try that. I can't remember all the steps, but the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 is saying 5 things you see, 4 things you hear, 3 things you smell, 2 things you feel, I think, and 1 thing you can taste. So it's like you trying to focus on what's around you, and that focus brings you away from your trigger. Uh, yeah. So when you get triggered, just step away. Yeah. So don't allow other people to trigger you. That's another thing. If you find yourself being triggered around certain people, you need to stay away from them, because those people probably know what your triggers are and they keep pushing them. Or they may not know what your triggers are and they push them, and then everybody's looking at you, like you said, they're looking at you like you're crazy. You have to start taking inventory. Get you a little notepad, a little notebook you can walk around with and write stuff down. When you start feeling like yourself getting into a trigger, write down, who are you? Not you, but who are you that's triggering me? Who am I around? What's my environment? What do I see? What do I smell? What do I hear? What do I taste? Because anything could be a trigger. Because when we go through our trauma, our minds recorded everything through that traumatic experience. Everything, sounds, sight, smell, everything. Even okay, I'm gonna get personal with this right here. My personal trauma happened in the bathroom. I was assaulted by my mother in the bathroom, sexually assaulted. And I don't like going into bathrooms to this day. I don't like bathrooms. I mean, I go because I have to use them, but them small claustrophobic, I almost cuss. The small claustrophobic hexagonal tile floors and the old school 70s tile on the wall and all that stuff. I hate those bathrooms. I do not like those bathrooms. Now, the ones that's like wide open and spacious and stuff, I could deal with those, but not them small ones. Can't stand them. I don't like them at all. That's a trigger to me. Sound familiar? When you go into a place that brings up the memory, it don't have to be the exact same place, but it could be a similar place to that, and it could bring up memories. And then all of a sudden, you finding your chest getting tight. You finding you breathing like real shallow. You start feeling like the room is closing in on you. You start feeling your heart beating fast. You've experienced a trigger. Now, be that in a place or around somebody. That's why you need that book. You got to start writing down when you were around, who you were around, where were you at, so you can start looking back through your book. I experienced a trigger around this person. Now you understand. You look back through your book. Oh, it wasn't just once. It's like every time I see this one particular person, I'm getting triggered. Now you know that person you need to avoid. You said you got a friend that always seal you. because you don't want to listen to certain songs on the radio. Okay, certain songs can be considered triggers. That's true. If a song was playing when you got traumatized, that song is in your trauma. I know people who don't listen to certain songs because of that. It brings back up those memories. Okay, you need to tell your friend to stop talking about things that trigger you because talking about them triggers you. If this person is your friend, tell your friend to stop asking questions about your triggers. Because if you tell them this song triggers me, and then they want to run down all the questions, oh, why this song trigger you? That's not for you to understand why it triggers me. That's for me to try to understand that. All you need to know is if you're supporting me and my health journey and my escape from my trauma, if you're supporting me, then you won't play this song anymore around me. I'm not telling you not to play it ever, but when you come around me, just don't play that music or that song. So if a person respects you and honors your healing, they won't play that song. But if they come back and they keep playing the song or they keep talking about your triggers, they're not respecting you. And you need to set a boundary. Look, if you're going to continue to break my peace and keep doing things to trigger me, I'm going to step away from this relationship. I can't be with you as a friend. And then watch them. Watch them to see if they're going to honor what they said. If they're going to either relapse and start doing the stuff all over again, or if they're really working hard to try to respect and honor you. Yeah, I have a friend like that too. When he gets upset, he's the funniest thing ever. But that's that's also a trauma response. Did you know that? Well, it is. And we have to be careful with such things because everything is not a funny situation. But if your trigger responses make people laugh, should you allow yourself to continue to be triggered so you can be a comedian, then that's hurting you. I don't think that's a good idea. Your therapist was probably just joking with you because they find you funny. And you can be comical. I mean, it's possible. I mean, I talk to you and you make me laugh sometimes. And that ain't even when you upset. So yeah, I happen to know you personally. I know Mishi personally. So before I go, I want to leave a word for everyone. Trauma, dealing with childhood trauma in adult life is serious. You may not think it's serious. You may not think it's even a real problem. You know, like I'll take me for an example. I use me. My thought process was these people just made up all this stuff so they could find a way to make money off other people. That was my thinking. But the reality of it is psychology is a real profession and it has real merit. And these people have gone by numerous cases of study to understand certain things work in the human psyche a certain way. And they've also learned how we can undo what's been done to get us back on track where we need to be. And that's where the therapist comes in. The trauma-informed therapist, the trauma-trained therapist, EMDR. Look for those. Look for those letters. Ask a therapist. If you're looking for a therapist, ask them, are they EMDR certified or recognized, or if they use EMDR modalities. Tell them that you suffered trauma, childhood trauma, and you are trying to find your way. And you need a therapist that can help them and can help you in that area. So with that said, I'm going to close out. I want everybody to do me a favor. If this has helped you at any time, at any moment during this podcast, I want you to go and tell a friend about this podcast. We're here to help you. Anybody that suffers from trauma. And look, you don't even have to suffer from trauma to listen to this podcast. You probably know somebody who's suffering. And you can recognize the red flags we talk about to help others overcome theirs. If you know and notice, if you look down at the bottom of the screen, these numbers and all this stuff has been scrolling the whole time while we've been talking. Those numbers and that information is vital to anybody who's listening. I keep repeating this statistic. 4 to 6 out of every 10 Americans have suffered from some form of child abuse. That's physical, sexual, mental, and verbal. The 4 horsemen, okay? 4 to 6 out of 10. So if you take 1 million people, that's 400,000 to 600,000 people. More than likely, you got about 4 to 6 people that you know in your life that suffer some form of childhood trauma and abuse. And the statistic went further to say that even those statistics that they gave are probably diminished because trauma victims do not report their trauma. I didn't. And I'm a trauma survivor. I didn't go to the police. I didn't go to my teacher. I didn't go to a principal. I didn't go to a police officer. I didn't go to a neighbor. I didn't tell a friend. I didn't tell anybody about that until later on in life. But I say that to say, seek help. Listen to what we're giving you. Go find a professional to help you. If you are in a crisis and you feel like you are suicidal, call 988. 988 is a national suicide and crisis lifeline. You can call that number 24 hours a day and get immediate help right where you are. Okay? Okay. Well, I'm going to close out with that. Okay, everybody know from now on, every Tuesday, every Saturday, 10:30 a.m. a.m. I'm going to say it one more time. 10:30 a.m. Tuesdays and Saturdays. You can catch us here live on Terror to Triumph. Tuesdays are our Q&A open session days. Saturdays are our informational dissemination days. So we give out information on Saturday to all who need it. So thank you for joining Terror to Triumph. I'm Alfonso Pelt. And remember, help is closer than you think. Y'all have a blessed day.